Hello pretty makers! Today we're going to take some Dollar Tree supplies and reuse them in a unique way to turn them into some very pretty fall decor. I think you will be surprised at how the items are completely transformed. So if you're ready, let's go make something pretty. I'm really excited to show you this DIY. It's my version of the velvet pumpkin. I love the velvet pumpkins that Dollar Tree was carrying this year, but I wanted to make one of my own in a unique way. I used an item that might surprise you. I love using things in a different way, and when I saw the velvet Christmas flowers from Dollar Tree, I wanted to use them for a fall DIY. They were very easy to take apart. You just pull the petals out from the stem. The bottom petals have a pretty cool embossed design and are a little larger, and the top petals have some texture. I took the bottom larger petals and hot glued them to the Dollar Tree foam pumpkin towards the bottom. I didn't paint the pumpkin because I was going to cover as much of it as possible. Then I just layered the smaller petals in a row on top of the row I just completed. I made about 3 rows in total to cover the entire pumpkin. I used all the petals for 2 flowers for the whole project. Then I used a piece of birch I got from Dollar Tree last year as the stem, and a metal leaf I pulled off another Dollar Tree sign as an accent. And that's it, you're done. This was a super easy project and only took about 15 minutes to complete. I think it looks really pretty, and I love the color. The edges have a little bit of glitter for that touch of glam that I love. Don't forget to check out my other tutorial on making high-end pumpkins for more ideas. This next DIY has to be the easiest ever. I love to collect pretty frames, which was the inspiration for this project. I see so many greeting cards that have such a pretty design, and it seems like such a waste not to use them in a creative way. I like putting them in frames for touches of seasonal decor and inspirational messages around my home. You just put the card in the frame like you would a picture, and you're done. You can also add some pretty accents like bows or gems if you want to give it some dimension. I think it's a great way to reuse a greeting card, or even a new way to give a card with the frame as the gift. Let me know in the comments if this is something you would do with your greeting cards. This next DIY was inspired again by my love for frames. Can you tell what Dollar Tree item I used for this project? It's the Dollar Tree Haunted Mansion wood cutout. Do you see it? I wanted to use the outside frame portion with the pumpkin blank to make some wall decor, or maybe even a pretty insert on a wreath. For this project, you'll need a pumpkin blank, 2 of the framed Halloween signs from Dollar Tree, plus any paint, stain, or embellishments you like. I'll have a full list in the description of what I used. Step 1 is to cut out the haunted house from the sign. For this, you can use a box cutter or X-Acto knife. With medium to hard pressure, start cutting out the inner portion by cutting where the house meets the outer ring. Please be careful and go slow. The wood is pretty thin, but it will take a few passes of your blade in order to cut through cleanly. Once you have the inner section removed, you can nip or sand any jagged pieces that might be left behind. Repeat these steps for the second frame. Now cut both frames in half using a straight edge to create a line. It doesn't have to be perfect for this project. You'll need about 1 1/4 pieces to go all the way around the pumpkin. Lay out the frame pieces around the pumpkin so it looks like it was made to fit. I used painter's tape to hold it in place while I was doing the layout. You're going to have to play with it a bit until you're satisfied with how it looks. Mark where you need to make any cuts and trim the pieces to make it work. When I was happy with how it looked, I hot glued the pieces in place. Keep checking the placement as you go and make sure everything stays aligned. Make any marks you need on the back as a guide. Now comes the fun part, the embellishment. I stained the whole piece with antique wax. You can also paint it the color of your choice. I added a hanger to the back from a spare Dollar Tree frame backing I had on hand. I also added some leaves to the top and some pearls to make it look pretty. In the end, I dusted the frame with some white paint very faintly because I wanted it to stand out. I'm kinda obsessed with how this came out. It's giving me so many ideas for other projects. I still haven't decided how I want to use this. Let me know in the comments if you would use it as wall decor or add it to a wreath. For this DIY, I used a really cool technique. I've used it before, but with foam board. This time we're going to use the Acorn wood cutouts from Dollar Tree. It worked really well and came out so pretty. I can't wait to show you, so let's get started. You will need 2 acorn wood blanks from Dollar Tree, about 1/4 of a sheet of white poster board, some stain or paint of your choice, as well as some embellishments. I'll leave a full list of what I used in the description. First, paint or stain your wood cutouts. I stained them on both sides and let them dry completely for about an hour. Once dry, I dry brushed them with some cream paint. I use the paint samples you can get from Lowe's or Home Depot a lot. They'll colorize them and you get a lot of paint for a little bit of money. Using the Dollar Tree shot glasses, you can also use Jenga blocks. Glue them in a random pattern around one side of the acorn. This is going to give the piece some depth as well as some strength. Now align the second acorn on top, making sure your sides match, especially the direction of your stem. Once you have everything aligned, glue it in place. Lift one side carefully and add some glue to the top of the shot glasses and press them together. Wait for the glue to dry and then do the other side. This creates the base for your piece. Next, cut a strip of poster board to fit the gap between the 2 cutouts. Glue the strip to the edges of the cutout to close the gap. Don't worry if you can't get one strip to go all the way around in one piece. You can do it in sections. The poster board will bend nicely around corners like the stem. It doesn't have to be perfect. We'll cover the edges in a minute. Using some ribbon, cover the edges of the piece. I had this pretty mesh ribbon from Costco, but you could use any ribbon. Dollar Tree has a lot of choices. The sequin Christmas ribbon would be great for this step. Trim off any excess ribbon from the edges. Don't worry if there are some gaps, they'll get covered in a second. I used the brass beads from Dollar Tree to trim everything out. I gave them a wash in pearl white paint with a little bit of water. You can do this step at the beginning so they're completely dry when you're ready to add them to the project. Now simply glue them all the way around the edge of the piece. This gives it the perfect finishing touch. I see these all the time in home stores, in all different shapes and for different holidays, and wanted to make one. I think it came out great. It makes such a pretty accent to your seasonal decor. I hope you saw something today that inspired you. If you did, please subscribe. If you have any questions, leave me some comments. I thank you for watching and keep making pretty things.